The House Oversight Committee is taking steps to hold FBI Director Christopher Wray in contempt of Congress after he refused to release those documents relating to the Biden family business dealings. Speaker Kevin McCarthy joined Fox and Friends yesterday, promising to take action.
I told him he could redact certain parts of that, names and others, so we wouldn't know methods, but we have a right to see it. He does not have the right to choose what he can and cannot show us. We oversee the FBI, and if he thinks differently, he will soon see a contempt charge in Congress against the director. There is enough problems in the FBI, and I am not going to sit back and allow him to ignore this.
Joining us now is Fox News legal analyst Gregg Jarrett. Good morning, Greg.
Good to see you,
Good to see you, too. You know, yesterday we were talking about this. What happens? Is it a slap on the wrist, or can Christopher Wray get arrested?
Well, there are two choices. Contempt can mean either criminal contempt or civil contempt. Neither one of them are terribly good. Criminal contempt, it gets voted out of the committee to the full floor. They vote on it, and then it gets sent to the U.S. Attorney in Washington, who is appointed by Joe Biden, and who reports to Merrick Garland, appointed by Joe Biden,
so we know
who is the subject of the disputed document. And, of course, Christopher Wray, the target of contempt, he also reports to both the president and Merrick Garland. Garland's required under law to recuse himself. He won't do it. So your other alternative is civil contempt, which means you file a lawsuit and it goes to a federal judge. If you get an impartial one, the judge could then order Mr. Wray, you must turn over this document. You have no legitimate basis to withhold it.
Why wouldn't he want to turn it over? It's not, I mean, he could still redact it. It's not classified.
Yeah, excellent point. And, you know, if he has a confidential informant identified in there, there's that thing called redaction. You can just black it out. Look, there's no basis for resisting this unless he's hiding something. And as I've said many times before, I think Christopher Wray and Merrick Garland are both running a protection racket for the Biden family.
Doesn't America deserve answers?
Of course.
This was a sitting he's a sitting president now. He was our vice president at the time. And if this is true, there was an exchange for money, for policy. We need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a crime. It's a violation of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. It could also be conspiracy. It's also an impeachable offense if it's supported by evidence. Americans deserve to see the evidence.
Okay, let me read you the statement from the FBI, then we're going to get to your new book. The FBI remains committed to cooperating with Congress's oversight requests. Releasing confidential source information could potentially jeopardize investigations and put lives at risk. Maybe that's the kicker right there, putting lives at risk. All right, so we do have Comer's coming on, Congressman James Comer's coming on at 8:30 this morning, so stay tuned for that interview. We're going to get into it with him. Let's talk about your book, Trial of the Century. We all remember growing up, and it was controversial if your teachers talked about evolution. And it goes back to 1925, right? Tell us why you decided this topic, what the topic is.
Well, the book is called, there you see it, Trial of the Century. Up at the top, you'll see the famed defense attorney Clarence Darrow and his nemesis, William Jennings Bryan, who was the great fundamentalist leader. Bryan helped get a law passed that made it a crime to teach evolution in public schools. He was so happy about it, he decided to prosecute a young school teacher by the name of John Scopes, who was
arrested. Substitute teacher, right?
Yeah. And Darrow, sitting in Chicago reading about it in the newspaper, is so incensed, he volunteers to defend John Scopes. The climactic moment in the trial, and I obtained the original trial transcript in the archives of the courthouse, was when Darrow, who knows he's losing the case in front of a stacked jury and a prejudiced judge, calls his nemesis, William Jennings Bryan, the prosecutor, to the witness stand. The judge says, "You can't do that." And Bryan stands up and says, "I have no fear. I'm an expert on the Bible. I will answer all questions." In the end, Darrow destroyed Bryan, so much so that a couple of days later he laid down for a nap and he never woke up. He was a broken man. But the case shifted public opinion in America. They stopped banning books on evolution. They stopped criminalizing the teaching of Darwin's cornerstone theory. Yeah, so really, it's all about free speech, which is at risk once again today in America. But Clarence Darrow stood up for the right of free speech and academic autonomy. cherished rights.
What's so cool about this story is we were talking in the green room before, and you said you went to your dad's bookcase and you saw a bio on Mr. Darrow, on Clarence Darrow, and you read it 3 times, and here you are all these years later
I was
writing
just
a book about it.
teenager, and I so admired this liberal icon. It wasn't his politics that defined him. It was his principles and his virtues and his values. In turn, they animated mine. It's why I became a lawyer. It changed the contours of my life.
Okay. Well, we're glad it did.
Thank
Because we became friends through it all.
We did,
Here
indeed.
at Fox,
Yeah.
the trial of the century. Everyone pick it up. Thank you. Congratulations.
My pleasure. Thanks, Ansel.
You're welcome.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.